Welcome and good morning. This is episode 1772 of the Creating Wealth Show. Our guest today will be yours truly. Yes, we have part two of a speech I gave recently about the Hartman Comparison Index and talking about inflation and so forth. So we will get to that in just a moment. But before we do that, I wanted to talk a little bit about something I have been beating the drum about for many years, almost 2 decades, and that is inflation. But before I even do that, I want to make a disclaimer. And here's the disclaimer. I got back from Scottsdale, Arizona last night, and I had to fly into Tampa because my car was in Tampa, and I just didn't feel like leaving my car across the state of Florida. And, when I got there about midnight. It was kind of a crazy schedule. And I just felt like I had enough energy to just drive across the state of Florida and forget about staying in a hotel, which I had originally planned to do. But sometimes you just really want to be back in your own house, sleeping in your own bed. So I got to bed at 5 a.m., which is something I rarely do. I'm usually getting up at 5 a.m. Early to bed, early to rise makes a person healthy, wealthy, and wise, as the saying goes. And I think that's true. I think it's good to be in harmony with nature, right? In the cycles of nature. When it gets dark, we should be thinking about sleeping. And when it's light, we should be thinking about being up and out and awake. So I have not taken a shower yet. And about the only thing I've accomplished so far this morning is walking the dog. But speaking of dogs, we've got some little pooches on the screen here. And as part of the Hartman Comparison Index, this is the best index for valuing real estate and understanding where it is going, predicting, and we have a component of it called the Hartman Predictive Index, for understanding where the prices of housing, where the prices of real estate are going, if it's overvalued, if it's undervalued, if it's fairly valued. And part of that index is the Forbes index, which I discovered many years ago. And this is like a CPI, a consumer price index for the extremely affluent people. Now, what is considered extremely affluent or ultra rich varies depending on who you're asking, right? And they're talking about billionaires here, but it's not really. Anybody with a net worth of 30 million or above is mostly considered to be ultra wealthy. So, we all have our own inflation rate. We have a personal inflation rate. Look, this is why nobody can agree on how bad inflation really is, because everybody has a different way of spending. And that means everybody has a personal inflation rate. You spend differently than I spend, and things that we spend money on inflate or stay the same or deflate in price at different rates. So we all have our own personal inflation rate. But when you segment the economy by different socioeconomic classes, certainly the poor spend money on life's necessities, like cigarettes and tattoos and drugs and alcohol. I'm joking. Well, not completely, but, a lot of people are sadly in the poorer classes of society because they have been the victim of various addictions and so forth. But I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the people who are just, they haven't figured it out, or they've had bad luck. They didn't start out well in life. I certainly didn't start out well in life, but I had a couple of lucky breaks that, had I not seen that real estate infomercial with that guru when I was 16 years old, maybe I would have never become interested in the most historically proven asset class in the world, income property. That changed my life, right? It was a lucky break. And at age 17, a year later, had I not discovered my 4 great mentors, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, Earl Nightingale, and Dennis Waitley, maybe I just wouldn't have discovered them. And maybe I never would have had exposure to the thoughts that we make our own way in life. and we've got to take responsibility for our own actions. And, maybe I would have never been inspired to change my life the way I did. And going back a couple of years, in ninth grade, when I really noticed the difference in socioeconomic classes, I went to an integrated school in Los Angeles in junior high school. It had all sorts of socioeconomic classes. It had the really poor kids bust in from South Central Los Angeles. And sadly, I was mugged in the hallways at school multiple times, once at knife point, for change in my pockets, right? So I'm tougher than I look. Okay. I grew up in some pretty tough neighborhoods, but I also saw the rich kids in my school. And, they lived in an area called Cheviot Hills. And the Cheviot Hills kids, no, they weren't 90210, but they were pretty close, right? They were the children of movie producers and celebrities. And noticing the difference in these classes in ninth grade and junior high school, I really thought, that's the good life. I want to be part of that group. And I wasn't part of that group, but I wanted to be. I aspired to be part of that group. And that motivated me. One of the things I noticed is I noticed all the pretty girls were hanging out with those kids, right? And, I wanted to be part of that group, not part of my group, right? So all of these things, right? They changed me and they influenced me. And maybe you had those things change you and influence you, or obviously different influences, right? But there's definitely an element of luck, and there's definitely an element of misfortune in life. No question about it, right? No one can deny that. But like Earl Nightingale says, luck is what happens when preparedness meets opportunity, right? We all have opportunities in life. And for the unprepared, the opportunity only makes them look foolish. Hey, considering that I only got 3 hours of sleep, I'm doing pretty good, aren't I? One cup of coffee. I haven't even had the second cup yet. So anyway, yeah, so that changes us, right? But we all have our different inflation rate. The poor spend money on necessities. So when the price of gasoline goes up, that really hurts the poor. When the price of groceries go up, that really hurts the poor. And it helps the rich, because the rich own stock in the companies that sell this stuff. And the stock value goes up. And they own real estate, of course, and they leverage their real estate, and they take advantage of my strategy of inflation-induced debt destruction. So they get huge benefits from that, right? And then there's this like slew of articles in the media, I can't freaking believe it, that is trying to convince people that inflation is good for the poor. I mean, talk about fake news. That is I don't know how these reporters, they should actually have liability for writing stuff like that. They should be sued for spreading such falsehoods. I mean, it's just unbelievable that the media can get away with the things they get away with. It's incredible. But anyway, before we get into the second half of my speech about the Hartman Comparison Index, and we learn more about how to value income properties, or properties in general, not just income properties. See, I do need more sleep. Okay. Let's look at the inflation rate, not the consumer price index, but let's look at the consumer price index for billionaires, for the extremely rich. And you don't have to be a billionaire, but just for wealthy people. And Forbes has been publishing this index, and I've followed it for many, many years, that the cost of living extremely well, the name has varied a little bit over the years, but you get the idea, right? So it's getting more expensive to live like a billionaire, is what the title of the article says. A kilo of caviar, a Rolls-Royce Phantom. Forbes has tracked the cost of the good life for 40 years now. It costs a lot to be rich, they say, and it's only gotten pricier over the past year. Forbes has been keeping tabs on the cost of the good life since 1982, tracking a basket of ultra luxury items. So the consumer price index tracks a basket of goods, right? The CPI. And of course, it's massively manipulated. And I've taught you about that many times over the years. The three major ways they manipulate the CPI. And they always have a huge incentive. They, meaning the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the government, whatever, has this huge incentive to make inflation appear lower than it really is. And they manipulate it down through weighting, substitution, and hedonic indexing. Boy, I haven't even brushed my hair. This is bad, folks. But hey, we're all friends. You're not going to judge me by looking like slovenly, right? So that's what they do. So Forbes decided they should create their own basket of goods, right? The cost of living very well, or the cost of living extremely well, the CLEWI, right? Well, this year it's up 10.1%, and that's the biggest jump since 2008. Now, what is really interesting about that statement? 2008, that was the Great Recession. But once again, whenever these events happen, whether it be COVID 1984, the Great Recession, the rich always seem to get the wealth transferred to them, because this is part of the Cantillon effect, which I've taught you about over the years. Richard Cantillon, the economist, postulated that the people closest to the money get the most of it. And that's why there is a massive wealth transfer that's been going on during these pandemic times. And by the way, scrolling across the bottom of your screen, if you're watching this on video, is a link. And you should go get my free report on pandemic investing. Just go to pandemicinvesting.com, real easy, pandemicinvesting.com, and request that free report. It'll be emailed to you instantly. There's no cost, no strings attached. It's just my strategies adopted. See, I haven't had enough sleep. Adapted for the crazy times in which we live. Okay, so the cost of living extremely well index jumped 10.1%. Well, the consumer price index over the same period only rose 5.3%, which, by the way, is extremely high comparatively. And we know it's manipulated down because it's fake news, but whatever. That's the official number, 5.3%. Now, the more recent stat was 6.2%. Okay, so, I'm just tracking Forbes is just tracking the same period. So we're comparing apples to apples. All right. Okay. Let's take a look. They say it's a combination of all three factors, right? There's the raw materials cost, the manufactured goods, and labor shortages thanks to the pandemic. Okay. But look at the chart. This is staggering, right? And you see how it's gotten out of sync at times over the years. The green line is the Forbes 400 total net worth, because there's a massive wealth transfer that's been going on ever since Nixon took us off the gold standard in 1971, on that fateful day on August 15th, 1971. And it's just been a massive wealth transfer. The rich keep getting so much richer, and everybody else is kind of plodding along, but the rich are getting a lot richer. So the green line is the Forbes 400 total net worth. The gray line is the consumer price index, which is fake news, of course. And the black line is the CLEWI, the cost of living extremely well index by Forbes, right? And we see that the CPI has always been the lowest. The Forbes 400 net worth has been just insanely high, right? And the cost of living extremely well index has outpaced the CPI. So while the expenses to live extremely well have gone up, all those private jets and, Gucci handbags and, Tiffany stuff, things and, whatever, right? Opera tickets, all that stuff. The rich have outpaced their rate of inflation quite dramatically. So they've gotten a lot richer, even though their cost of living has gone up more than the CPI by the official stats. They've gotten way, way richer. Okay, so let's look at a couple examples. So one category they have is entertainment and toys. That's up 6.1%. So opera is 0%, but 2 tickets to 6 Saturday night performances, the premium seats, the Metropolitan Opera in New York, okay, that's $5,700. So that's actually a 0% increase. Okay. A piano, they pick one, right? This is a Steinway & Sons, a certain specific model, $187,000. That's up 3%. A motor yacht, $6,855,000. That's up 11.2%. That's a Viking 75 priced in New Jersey. Okay. A sailing yacht, $3.4 million. That's up 30.8%. and that's an Oyster 595, right? Sporting shotguns are up 3.9%. I mean, all this stuff. Thoroughbred horse is $421,000. Now, they don't have, that's new in the index, so they don't have a comparison. A train set is $200, up 0%. Cigars, $877 for a box of these, certain types of cigars, up 0%. Forbes magazine is up 0%. They even put their own magazine in here. Fashion is up 10.8%. Okay. And then they've got a bunch of things in that category, right? Men's black calf wingtip shoes, custom made, John Lobb, United Kingdom, those are up 12.8%. A dress is up 0%. Okay. But shirts, 12 cotton bespoke Turnbull and Acer shirts made in the UK, up 12%. Okay. Gucci loafers are up 5.3%. Oh, hey, there's my watch. I have this watch. I have this exact watch almost. This is a Royal Oak Audemars Piguet watch, an AP. That's up 34%. Now, this is not the exact one I have. Mine's up actually more than this one. I was shocked to learn my watch that I think I paid like $12,000 for it years ago, around 2007, is now worth about $75,000. I was shocked. I had no idea it was worth that much. And it makes me want to not wear it because I'm afraid of the danger of wearing it. But this version of that same brand, that AP watch, this one's got a blue face, mine has a white face. The Royal Oak is now $23,900, and it's up 34.3%. That is amazing how much these fine watches have gone up. So we see that the food and drink part of the index is up 12.2%. Caviar is up 0%. That's good. And champagne was just added to the index. That's kind of surprising. That wasn't in there before. Household items up 15.7%. Yeah, so it just goes kind of through this. A tennis court will now cost you $58,000. That's up 4.4% if you want to add a tennis court to your home. They've got private schools, facelifts. How much does a facelift cost now? That's up 51%. Wow. Yikes. That's now $32,000, I guess. I guess the price is up quite a bit for that. An estate manager to manage your estate is more expensive, but that's a new thing in the index. That's $380,000. Wow. That's in the minimum salary in the San Francisco area. So, okay. Oh, if you want to go see the shrink for your mental health, that's now up 12.5%. That's $450 for 45 minutes to see a psychiatrist on the Upper East Side of New York City. Wow. Folks, figure out how to work out your own problems. Get some self-counseling online. Read some self-help books. That's really expensive. Have some good friends that you can have good conversations with. Lawyer for estate planning, $1,250 an hour, which, by the way, if you have not taken advantage of our fantastic partnership with our attorney who does estate planning, asset protection, tax saving strategies, trusts, LLCs, that is the deal of the century. I mean, that is such a good deal. You can watch a free class on that and learn how to engage him for the bargain price of literally less than $3,000 to work out a whole plan for you. It's an incredible deal. Just go to jasonhartman.com/protect. That's jasonhartman.com/protect. This is one of those things that is really quite easy to just take care of, but you must do it in advance. You must do it in advance. So that link again, jasonhartman.com/protect. PROTECT, like protect your assets. Okay. jasonhartman.com/protect. Go check out that free class. Even if you don't engage him, you'll learn a lot. It's a very good lesson there. Okay. So, travel cost, 4.1% increase. Airplanes are way up, by the way, folks. I've been airplane shopping a little bit recently, and the prices are insanely high, but the index doesn't show it that way. And this is how indexes can be faulty. They price a Learjet 75. Now, I thought Lear was in bankruptcy, but I don't know. This is 9.9 million and up 0%, which is not actually accurate at all. The private jets, those are up about a third to, in some cases, double in 1 year, by the way, because there is such a shortage of them. It's absolutely crazy. So anyway, that's what the index does. That's the CPI for the wealthy folks. Okay. Now, don't feel sorry for them. Follow their lead. Do what they do. Follow my plan. With income property, use inflation-induced debt destruction. Have inflation benefit you, have it help you. And lots more on the podcast and on my YouTube channel about all of these things and how you can do it. You can also reach out, talk with one of our investment counselors, our team members, by just going to jasonhartman.com or get the Pandemic Investing book. We'll reach out to you that way, or sign up for the asset protection, the free class, and we'll connect with you that way. There are lots of ways you can connect with us, real easy. All right, without further ado, let's get to my speech on the Hartman Comparison Index, a truly unique way to value real estate. And I say it is the best way because it answers the question, compared to what? And that is life's most important question. But we can apply that to economics, to valuation of income property. And that's what we need to do. We need to answer the compared to what question. And that's what we're going to do right now on the podcast. So for podcast listeners, you'll hear this. For live stream viewers, go check out the podcast, The Creating Wealth Show, to get that information. Wherever you get your podcast, you can find it, and it is there for you.